Have you noticed something strange? People no longer walk in silence. They don't wait in silence. They don't sit in silence. Even when they're alone, they make sure they aren't really alone. A song, a podcast, a video, a voice, always a voice. And maybe that's why so many people no longer know who they are. This is what I call the AirPods effect. At first it looks harmless, just a pair of earbuds. A little entertainment to make a boring walk more enjoyable. A podcast during a drive. Music while cooking. Something to fill the silence. But slowly, silence stopped being empty and started feeling dangerous. So we avoid it. Not because we hate silence, but because of what silence might reveal. The regrets we've buried, the loneliness we've ignored, the questions we've spent years outrunning. Am I happy? Am I becoming the person I wanted to be? What if I've been lying to myself? Silence asks these questions, and many of us would rather hear anything else. So we press play. Again and again and again, we tell ourselves we're learning, improving, staying informed, but maybe we're running from regret, running from loneliness, running from memories we'd rather forget, running from questions we don't know how to answer. And the scariest part about running for so long is that eventually you forget what you were running from. Researchers have noticed something unsettling. People are speaking to each other less than they used to, far less. Not because humans suddenly became less social, but because modern life has quietly given us permission to withdraw. You no longer have to talk while waiting in line. You no longer have to make small talk. You no longer have to sit alone with your thoughts. There is always something waiting to distract you. And distraction feels good, at least for a while. But here's the paradox. The more connected we become to content, the more disconnected many of us feel from ourselves. Heavy headphone users often report feeling lonelier and less willing to engage with people around them, which sounds impossible. How can someone surrounded by voices feel alone? Because hearing voices is not the same as being understood. Sometimes it just guarantees we stay strangers. And maybe that's why one story stayed with me. A man once described playing golf with someone he had just met. They shook hands, exchanged a few words, and then nothing. The other man wore AirPods the entire round. 9 holes, side by side, barely speaking. And afterward he said something heartbreaking. I would have felt less isolated playing alone. Think about that. 2 human beings, standing feet apart, separated by almost nothing, and yet a universe away. That's the AirPods effect. Not the technology, the avoidance, because the longer you avoid people, the easier it becomes to avoid yourself too. And then something even stranger happens. The voices you listen to every day start sounding like your own. Researchers found that people listening through headphones often feel unusually close to the speaker. The voice feels warmer, more trustworthy, more persuasive, almost as if it isn't coming from outside anymore, but from inside their own mind. And maybe that's more dangerous than we realize, because a mind that is never quiet slowly loses its shape. The opinions, the fears, the dreams, the beliefs. Maybe your inner voice isn't entirely yours anymore. Maybe it's a collection of every podcast, every opinion, every voice you let inside, stitched together so perfectly you forgot where you end and everyone else begins. And maybe that's why silence feels unbearable. Not because silence is empty, but because silence removes all distractions. And suddenly, there is nowhere left to hide. Silence is not what scares you. It's the possibility that, after years of noise, you no longer know who you are without it. That thought terrifies most people, which is why the moment boredom appears, they reach for their phone. The moment discomfort appears, they press play. The moment silence arrives, they run. But maybe the answer was never to run faster. Maybe the answer is to stop, to sit quietly, and meet the person you've spent years avoiding. Because one day, all the music will stop, the podcasts will end, the videos will finish, and you'll be left with the one voice that has been waiting for you all along, your own. The question is, will you recognize it? Because maybe the AirPods effect was never about what you put in your ears. Maybe it was about what you've been trying not to hear. yourself.